I'm really glad we've been able to capture this stuff. So now let's welcome the entrepreneurs from Humon to talk about their LTV.
Absolutely.
Come on, guys. Alessandro, Dan.
Hey, Bill.
How are you? Good to see you, man.
Hey,
Good to see
welcome
you,
to
Dan. How's it going?
Entrepreneurship 103. It's
you.
great to have you.
Thanks for
It's
having
good to
us.
be here.
Make yourself comfortable. Great to have you.
Thanks for having us. Our pleasure.
You know, the very first question that our students would have about you is, how'd you guys meet?
So we actually met through Bill. I was going through business school at MIT Sloan, and Bill was teaching a class over there about, how to start a new venture. I took the class, and I met Dan on the first day.
And I'm a PhD student here in mechanical engineering, and a couple of years ago, as I was kind of starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel and thinking about what I was going to do when I graduated, I figured entrepreneurship was for me. So I went down to Bill's class, took new enterprises, and met Alessandro on the first day. So
Diverse team, Bill.
Yeah.
How common is that in your experience?
Well, we try to get it all the time, and the teams that are successful actually buy into the program, as Alessandro and Dan did. And the ones who don't really buy into it, they end up not doing as well. And that's common with research. So we really try to do that. We try to set up 2 weeks at the beginning of the class where they get to know each other. Because it's not just, one person's technical and one person's a business person. You got to find the right person, what we call energy amplifiers, people who like to work with each other. If you've seen these two work, they get at it and they keep going. I think another thing that's very interesting here when you look at this team is that Dan, while he's a mechanical engineer, and you took 15390 and you work with Miles and you had a technology and Miles had his research it was bringing.
Yeah.
Dan said, as you heard him, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to understand the process of what's going on.
Yeah.
And so that really is very interesting, and you're going to see it. It allowed them to look at a much broader scope of problems to solve, which means a much broader range of opportunities to go after to start a company.
Yeah, so Dan, for you, it was less about bringing your technology to market. It was about learning entrepreneurship.
exactly, and as Bill says, when we joined the class, I think both of us shared the mindset that we didn't come in with an idea and knowing that we wanted to start a company. As Bill says, he wants to teach the students how to fish, teach them how to build the company, as opposed to giving them the fish.
Yeah. Well, when Bill introduced us to you, and he said to us, you gotta talk to these guys. They are great because they started with this big vision, and that vision was biology and technology are becoming one, and in the future we'll be able to capture so much more data about our bodies than we do today. And somebody has to play a role in shaping that future and bringing it closer to today. But instead of just staying at this big dreamy level, these guys just got down to business and became very specific. So talk us through that.
Sure. And the reason we managed to be specific is because we kind of, as Dan said, we're not trying to really build a company, but just following the steps and learning. And so, as you said, we started thinking, in the short future, biology and technology, the intersection is going to lead to amazing things. And essentially, we thought that in 3 to 5 years, we're all going to be wearing some piece of technology somewhere in the body that's going to monitor vital body parameters. So today, you have steps, you have pace, but we think you're going to have maybe vitamin, hormones, information that can help you lead better and healthier life. And we went out there in the market, talked to people, did interviews, asking a simple question, which was, what do you need to know about your body today that would change your life?
What kind of people did you talk to?
So we talked to everyone. We could identify 8 different markets we talked to, anything from the military, ICU patients, women undergoing hormone therapies, mothers who had just very young child, elderly people, and athletes. And as we kind of talked to all these guys, and the answer to that question, we realized there was no real use case that we could identify. People thought it was cool, that it would be kind of a good gadget, but there was no use case. Until we got to athletes, and especially these endurance athletes, and to that question they answered, I need to know what my lactic acid threshold is. That's not what we do today, but that's how we identify the problem, and our amazing device we built today solves the problem they have.
And it sounds like you chose endurance athletes as your beachhead market.
So our beachhead market is even more specific than just endurance athletes.
Wow.
We realized that athletes were interested, endurance athletes had the real use case, and then as we kind of talked to more of these endurance athletes, realized that the guys that needed it today, and it was a question, it was like they would pay, you know, an insane amount of money for it, and it was just a question of them achieving their goals, were the triathletes. And especially within these triathlete segments, the one we're targeted are what we call semi-pro triathletes. Yeah. So they're usually, you know, between 20.
That's your end user, right?
This is the end user. So they're usually, you know, between 25 and 35 years old. They're triathletes. They don't compete professionally. They have a job on the side, but they train 3 to 4 times a week, and they train to get better. You know, they're usually married. They have a good amount of income, and they spend a lot on training equipment. So anything from suits to supplements to gadgets, right? Roughly $4,000 a year. Yeah. And these are the people we're trying to target at first.
Bill, what I think is really amazing about this case is that their end user defined the problem for them. The end user said, I need to measure my lactic threshold. Very specific.
Yeah. And you have to love the way that they're going through, understanding their customer, how much, you know, their number one priority, how much money they spend on this problem, and the like. Really nice. And you going back to your user innovation class, you know, they're looking at a user who's trying to figure out a solution for a very serious problem. And today they kind of jerry-rig solutions, but nothing's working particularly well. Now you bring in 2 very clever, motivated people who are athletes themselves, and they're going to go after and solve this problem.
Yeah, and now you need to bring in a team who will solve that problem so that the athlete can continue training, right, and benefit from that. That's great. Please define for us the value proposition for the end user. We can sense it, but tell us more about it.
Yeah, so the value proposition here is a little bit hard to quantify, but you know, we had to figure out how to do it anyway. Now, this is, you know, the solution.
Why is it hard to quantify? What was your challenge in the beginning?
So the solution that we've developed, or the problem that we're trying to solve, is of them getting better. And this is something kind of captured in their happiness. This is what they do. We're not trying to save them 50% on their energy bills or something like this. It's not purely monetary. It goes much deeper.
How do you measure happiness, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for them, happiness is getting to the next level, beating their personal record, shaving a few more minutes off of their, you know, next Ironman time. That's what they do. And for them to do this, it's all about data. It's all about, they're very data-driven people, getting data, looking at that data, optimizing it so that they can achieve this goal.
And what options for data do they have today?
And so today, you know, essentially the kind of alternative that existed, you know, before this, the traditional alternative was a blood test. To get this information they need about knowing how hard to push themselves without exceeding this limit required them to go to a training studio, exercise on a stationary bike or a treadmill with a sports doctor drawing blood from them periodically to analyze this blood and tell them, you know, kind of where that limit was. And this is an expensive process, you know, somewhere around $150, and something that they can only afford to do, both in the time they have to take out of their day to go schedule this session, as well as the money. So they would only do it maybe every few months. And with the solution that we've developed for them now, this is data that they can get every single day without having to spend that $150, without having to go to the training studio.
Yeah. And that solution is just here. It's completely non-invasive and works in real time. It's a wearable you wear on your muscles, on the fly, basically. So if there's any triathletes out there, come try it out.
It must make you quite confident about your business because, yes, you're providing a quantified value proposition. You're saving time and, importantly, you're saving money. But at the same time, you're providing this happiness. You know, you're leaving so much more on the table than you're taking off. It's got to make you real proud and confident of that.
That's why we're doing it.
We're very happy.